podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
So, Paul, we've had about 18 months of misery on this show where we've talked every single week about basically how much we hate Jose Mourinho. If listeners didn't catch our bonus edition, emergency special podcast on Mourinho, go back and listen to that one. That's 45 minutes of ranting. We don't need to do that anymore. We're going to have to change the name of this podcast because the good times are back.
Do you think, though, what we should do is install a kind of a sort of metaphorical swear jar, and every time you feel tempted to mention Mourinho's name, you just don't. We just move on and never speak about him again.
Yeah.
Or maybe we'll start.
He's the manager whose name we cannot say. Yeah.
Maybe we should start that next week because we'll do the comparisons to the Mourinho era this week and then leave those in the past where they belong and take things on their own terms.
Ghosts of Christmas Past, I think. Yeah. All right. Look, I mean, we're going to have periods under Ollie over the next 6 months when it's not good, I'm sure. United are going to lose games. This group of players is much better than Mourinho was getting out of them. But there are flaws in this squad for sure, and there are going to be difficult times to come. But Ollie, in my view, has done absolutely everything right in his first week. He's just brought back positivity and said, "Go out there and play."
So we did the emergency missive. We'd finished recording the podcast on the Monday after the Liverpool game, and it was it was the most doom-filled podcast we've ever done, just because it seemed like there was no chance he was going to get sacked, and it felt so miserable to be, it felt like nothing was going to change. Then we did the emergency show, and the emergency show was pleased that he'd gone. But actually, at that point, there was Laurent Blanc was the front runner, and I was very distressed about the possibility of Laurent Blanc taking over at Man United. And then, probably half an hour after we finished recording, people started saying Ollie. And I was like, what? As if it was not a serious thing at first. And then it starts bubbling. The whispers. Can you hear the drums? Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It's coming. The sound's building. I start hearing it from places other than just Twitter and stuff, and people start telling me this is really being worked on, and you start to think, no, is this really going to happen? And then Mike Phelan's coming home, baby! The dream team of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Mickey the Shorts Phelan, Mike more than a Phelan, absolutely amazing. Just the insane level of feel-good factor. So before we talk about the games, let's have our say on the decision to wait and appoint a manager in the summer, and the decision on who the interim manager is, what that means, and of course the discussion that everyone's having: what does he have to do to keep the job?
Yeah, well, my view is that he's not going to get the job full time unless United can't get Pochettino or another big name European manager. I'm positive that Woodward will want to go there. The noises coming out of the Pochettino camp are pretty positive, aren't they? It's his job if he wants it, and it doesn't really matter what Spurs are doing. And they're going to, I think, make a good fist of chasing down Liverpool or City for the title, and you never know, they might even win it. But I don't know if that actually matters for Pochettino. This is the next step in his career to take over an elite club, which I'm sure he wants to do. So they're going to try and get Pochettino. That's the long-term plan. Ollie will only get it if United are magnificent over the next few months and they can't get another big-name manager. But put that aside, the decision to appoint him is probably the bravest thing that Woodward, the spineless that he is, has ever done at United. I mean, I'm absolutely astounded that he's had this kind of vision because, or maybe it was just luck. I don't know, but I'm serious when I say Ollie has done everything right. This wasn't about coaching great players. It wasn't even really about systems this week. It was just about positivity. He said in his first interview as manager, I don't care about the opposition. I want to focus on us. I want to focus on getting the best out of us. Exactly right. It's almost as if he's taken the Mourinho template and just flipped it around, done everything the opposite way. It's that scene in The Simpsons where Homer finds his brother, and his brother runs a car automaker, and there's an employee on the other end of the phone who's obviously being very rude about Homer Simpson, and the brother says, "Okay, now say everything you said exactly opposite," and the guy, and he puts him on speaker and he starts saying nice things and goes, yeah, and he's got, and his personal hygiene is beyond reproach, Anyway, long way of saying, it's just done everything differently. He's been super positive. He said clean slate. He's played attacking teams. He's focused on United, not the opposition. It's all about proactivity. It's all about trying to score and win and feel good and get the best out of this group of players. It's just awesome. And I know that there are going to be tough times, it's quite possible that this kind of bump for this week will disappear, and the flaws in the squad will come out, and we've got Spurs coming up, and maybe we'll get smashed in that game, and the confidence will go, and it will be a difficult few months because the edge will go, because they know this isn't the full-time manager or whatever, right? It's quite possible, but for now, for this week, Ollie's done everything he needed to do.
You mentioned Woodward's vision, and the thing that keeps jumping out to me is that this feels like, I know it didn't go very well last time Alex Ferguson picked a manager, but this, I mean, is Ed Woodward really following Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's career? Or is this like him saying, is this Fergie going, do you know what? Do you know who might be able to do this? Because Fergie's always been really positive about Solskjaer as a manager. He gave him the job as a reserve team manager and all that sort of stuff, which is, really prominent and important job in the structure of United. So it felt a bit like that, especially when Mick Phelan got the call as well. But Solskjaer said the Mick Phelan thing was his decision. As soon as he heard he got the job, he tried to get hold of Mick Phelan, who was coaching in Burnley.
Australia.
But he was doing a coaching day in Burnley that day. Our manager and our assistant manager are both on loan from like Mulder and Central Coast Mariners, which that shouldn't be working, but it is.
I know it's completely nuts in terms of the level at which these two guys are working. Phelan, isn't he like technical director there? He's not even a coach.
Yeah.
And Ollie's been, Mulder manager for years and years and years, and they're a very small club, and they do pretty well. They finished second in the Norwegian league last season. So it is mental, both that United are loaning these guys, and neither of them are working at a particularly high level at the moment. But they understand United, and one of the messages that came out was that after the West Ham game, Woodward had kind of decided that something was desperately wrong at United, and the briefing was that he said, "This is not United. This is not us." Well, we talked about that West Ham game. That was Mourinho shouting from the rooftops, "Sack me!" That was a desperate cry for help. And it's taken a few weeks for Woodward to make that decision. He should have made it the day after West Ham.
He should, although the timing is perfect for a manager to come in and get the run. You could imagine him looking at the run of fixtures and going, "Okay, get through to that Liverpool game, and then the new manager gets Cardiff, Huddersfield, Bournemouth, Newcastle, third round of the FA Cup." That's a brilliant first 4 games to have for a new manager, isn't it?
For sure, yeah. And it's of the next 7 fixtures, it's only Spurs. That's a big team, and of course, like the United's record against the bottom 14 is actually very bad.
Exactly. I just did the Full-Time Devils preview for the Bournemouth game. And one of the things I said on there is that this notion that it's only Cardiff, it's only Huddersfield. The exact problem that we've had since Fergie left is the teams who you start with, you add the prefix "it's only." That's where the problem has been. Done all right against the big teams under Van Gaal and latterly under Mourinho for some of the time. So it's anyway. The decision was a kind of really bold one, and the feel good factor was instant. Andy Thomas, writing in SB Nation, said that Woodward was trying to weaponise niceness, and that Ollie has incredible stats when it comes to just getting it. And the amount of times that Solskjaer has referenced what United is, what United should be, what United players are like, and the fact that he has, as you said, he's done everything right. One of the things that he's done beautifully is make it so clear that this current group of United players, who a week earlier Roy Keane had been saying there's 7 or 8 of them not good enough in the first team, Ollie has made it really clear that this group of United players are United players.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, and he's talked about individuals as well, but entirely positively. I mean, I don't remember Mourinho saying anything good about any of the players ever. If it was victory, it was his victory. If it was defeat, it was the players. But Ollie has talked about individuals and wanting to get the best out of them, and he's talked about the collective. It's like a fan has taken over, a fan with some actual managerial, qualities rather than just a bunch of opinions pulled out their asses and people who talk on a podcast about it. So. We talked about the vision from Woodward. I just find it astounding. I'm still blown away that Woodward has done this, because honestly, he's such a weak chief executive. He's so weak. I work with a lot of leaders from around the world in my real job, and I just don't recognise a lot of leadership qualities in him. The briefings always come out, oh, he's so intelligent, and he can be ruthless when he wants, and he's got great vision. Maybe that's true on a commercial level. Maybe he's a great sales director. But as a CEO, as someone to inspire people, I just don't see this from him. I see him as being, fundamentally flawed. But this was stunning. This is, I just couldn't. I would not have been surprised at all if they had appointed Laurent Blanc, because he'd been seen as a safe pair of hands.
Absolutely, and this is, Solskjaer is anything but a safe choice. I mean, it's safe in the sense that you guarantee yourself a substantial honeymoon period, because the fact that it's been 180 minutes of football and United have not stopped singing his name. I mean, okay, yeah, the football helped, but that's all you're guaranteed. Now, I have to say, a big, massive shout out to long-time listener Flat Cap Sam, who me and him used to exchange emails way back in the Moisey days, which was Solskjaer's first season at Mulder, I think, as well. Or maybe that was the season before. But Sam was always absolutely adamant Solskjaer should definitely be the United manager one day, because he just has something about him. And I remember the documentary that MUTV made about him and his first spell at Mulder. And it was very clear that something about him is an extremely accurate description. I mean, I have to say, he has looked quite nervous, I thought, since he's taken over. Very understandable, but he's looked a little bit nervous in press conferences. He's looked a little bit nervous on the touchline, but he hasn't had too much cause to be nervous for too long, because right at the beginning of all of this, the football started and Marcus Rashford scored an absolute screamer within 4 minutes of the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
I mean, what a start that was. Just before we get onto the game, as rumours were going around that he was going to become the interim manager, there was that clip shared widely on social media of him sort of doing some coaching at Mulder and talking to them about shooting. He was like, and it was just a beautiful 30-second clip, and the funniest bit, of course, he's got this Manchester stroke Norwegian accent.
Yeah.
He's like that. Sorry for being generalising here, my Scandi friends. He was like the Swedish chef, crossed with like Bez or something like that. You know?
Yeah,
it's hilarious. And he's going shoot. And you can see that he's got something about him. I mean, there's confidence there. He's not a wallflower, is he? And people do say that, he might be nice, but he's got some steel. And I think he'll grow into this. Whether he's a brilliant tactician, whether he can command the respect of the players at this sort of elite level, whether he's got the vision to shape a team and create a style all of his own, I don't know. It's hard to say whether that's true or not from Mulder. We can get some clues in terms of tactics, but the Norwegian First Division is quite a drop in quality, and it's one of those ones where everyone beats everyone a lot, right? So it's just completely different. But I feel like there's just something about him. Anyway,
I couldn't agree more. That's exactly how it feels. He does have some sort of it factor for sure. And you mentioned respect to the players, and okay, his playing career isn't Zinedine Zidane's playing career, but domestically he won absolutely everything and was an integral part of doing it, including quite literally scoring, one of the single most important goals in United's history, and that was not an isolated incident. That goal, he scored a lot of goals for United and was very highly respected at United for a decade, or more. So, and actually, this is something I remember thinking a lot during the Moyes era, and the thing that Moyes struggled with the most was not getting the club. The thing that Van Gaal struggled with the most was not getting the club. And boy, oh boy, the last geezer. And listen, let's not even go there. This is not the be all and end all for a manager. But if you don't get the club, you're putting yourself on the back foot at a significant disadvantage.
Yeah.
And Solskjaer knows he really, it's not trivial and negligible and yada to think that getting the club matters.
It matters. It definitely matters. And I know that the United way or something like that it's a bit of a myth, of course, but he understands his club. 11 years at United, he's seen it all. He understands what it means to win. If there was David Priest on one of his podcasts was saying that Paul Pogba will see him as the reserve manager. Well, if Pogba has a problem with Ole Solskjaer and doesn't respect him highly enough, and I don't think that's going to be true, Ole can say 6 Premier League titles, the Champions League, 10 major trophies. You show me your medals.
Yeah.
He's won it all. He's won it all.
Pogba will show him the World Cup and the Serie A, and Pogba's got some medals. He's doing all right considering his age, isn't he? All right, so let's talk about the football. And the one thing that I want to say first off is, there is definitely some trying for the manager, but the people that just put that down to the players are down-tooled under Mourinho. It's like they're not watching the same game, because the story of that Cardiff game was tactical freedom and fullbacks pushed a long way up the pitch.
And one other thing, pressing.
Yeah, absolutely.
The high press. He said, that quote where he said, "I don't care if you lose the ball as long as you work hard to get it back."
Honestly, I really genuinely had slight tears in my eyes when he said that, because the amount that's what United need to hear. The best analysis of anyone that I've heard talking about this game so far was Wayne Rooney, who was astonishingly forthright. I know you were travelling, Ed, so you probably haven't seen the BT Sport coverage, but Wayne Rooney was in the studio, and he, first of all, if you read between the lines of what he said, he clearly didn't have a lot of time for Jose Mourinho. That's extremely evident. Maybe you could say, well, he's the one that moved Rooney out, so, maybe there's a personal agenda there. But the way he talked about the way the players would be feeling, You hardly have to read between the lines. But, he talked about Mourinho wanting his two holding midfielders to be deep and especially wanting his fullbacks to be close to his centre-backs. And this was a game which showed you, listen, Paul Pogba dallies on the ball sometimes because he is a bit like that. But how many times did he dally on the ball because he didn't have good options ahead of him? In this game, there was hardly a time when the United player was in the opposition third and didn't have an option.
I mean, it's wonderful, isn't it? After the Mourinho Van Gaal era, sometimes we have 5 or 6 players ahead of the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stunning. That just does not happen at United.
Yeah. I told this. I told this story on a full-time Devils thing too. Just repeating all my material here. But remember I went as press to the Carrick testimonial, and I got a little bit emotional seeing 2 fullbacks up the pitch because Fergie managed the All-Star, Michael Carrick's All-Star 11 or whatever, the 2008 reunion that it was. And both the fullbacks, it was a testimonial, so obviously it doesn't matter, but both the fullbacks stayed up the pitch the whole time. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I've missed this so much. And it was, that was the absolute, it was so obvious that the fullbacks had complete freedom to push up. The centre-backs had freedom to carry the ball forward and just...
Victor Lindelof has turned into Baresi, hasn't he? He's world class overnight. Yeah, I just think it's great. He did exactly what he needed, which was give the creative players that United have, and we've got a lot of creative attacking players, freedom to go and create an attack. And he's just loosened up the tactics. Now he's going to expose a problem, because it's the one that Mourinho is most fearful about, which is that Nemanja Matic is not a good screen. He's just not a good defensive midfielder anymore. Maybe he was in his younger days, but not anymore. He hasn't got the legs. And we have a bit of an underbelly in the centre-back region, players getting out of position a lot. So, and that was exposed, especially in Huddersfield's goal the other day. And United will concede, and that'll be a problem in the matches against better opposition for sure, right? So this is what Mourinho is most concerned about, and it's United's weakness. And if Woodward wants to continue in the vein of vision, he will release funds for at a minimum a great central defender, but I think even more important, although less obvious, is a great defensive midfielder. The rumour is that he's only going to allow loans to come in, and because I guess they're chasing Poch and they want Poch to sign off on the players he wants. But that's the biggest flaw, and it may be exposed in more difficult games to come. But in terms of attacking freedom, Ollie's done everything we needed. And
let the team worry about the weak underbelly and the vulnerability to the counter-attack in games where you're not going to score 5, and let us worry about that against big teams, but let's not worry about it against Cardiff and Bournemouth and Newcastle and Huddersfield, which is what Mourinho was doing. And
what would Mourinho have put out against Cardiff? Well, it's an away game, probably 3 at the back with 2 screening.
Funnily enough, in terms of personnel, it wasn't super different. The obvious difference is that Pogba came back into the fold and was absolutely superb. I mean, Martial won man of the match and he was electric against Cardiff. Poorly, of course, for the next game. Jesse Lingard scored the 2 goals, was brilliant too. Victor Lindelof was excellent, but man of the match really was Paul Pogba, just absolutely pulling strings in the centre of midfield at 100 touches or something. I haven't got the data in front of me, but put up massive numbers in that game and was hugely influential. So that was big. But generally speaking, the personnel was not a million miles away from the Mourinho team. Matic played. Young played at fullback, for example. There wasn't a revolution in terms of the selection, was it? But it was just a revolution in terms of what the players were allowed to do on the pitch, or felt allowed to do on the pitch.
Yeah, for sure. And, those key things we've pointed out. Pressing when United are not off the ball, but recognising, so defending from the front, not from the back, as Mourinho wanted to do. Mourinho, you're right, defends with a narrow back 4 and a low block. Ole's going to defend with a wide back 4 and a high block. And so there's that change. There's putting Pogba in a position that he really wants to play, which is the creative number 10, effectively. Not a classic number 10, but in the way Pogba does it, and attacking players ahead of him, and he's mixed and matched a little bit in those two games in terms of the attacking players, but it's an attacking front three, and just small changes, but there's the small changes that we really needed, especially in games like this.
Yeah,
there's every chance under Mourinho United lose this game or it's super narrow. Of course,
and almost no chance that it's 5, given that we haven't scored 5 since. I mean, that's hilarious, isn't it? Wasn't that just the icing on the cake that we made it 5 to really put a rubber stamp on the fact that this is something new now, because we hadn't scored 5 since Mick Phelan's last game. So consecutive 5-goal performances for Mick Phelan's Man United, 2,083 days apart, which is that's an amazing statistic.
Well, he claimed success for the last 6 years, didn't he? So maybe he was right. Maybe it is all about Mick Phelan.
Of course, the data doesn't show that's a 5-goal performance. Martial's finish was incredible. That finish for that goal. That goal was just sumptuous. The 1 and 2 touch passing and moving. Lingard was trying to get the ball to Rashford, but Martial was like, "Nah, son," and flicked it out of his feet. And with the most Solskjaer-esque finish you're ever going to see, passed it into the corner that there was no chance the keeper could get it. But the Rashford goal is an element of fortune, obviously, and the Herrera goal, a massive element of fortune, but it just all felt right.
I don't know whether Rashford's an element of fortune. I mean, he's gone with the knuckleball free kick. That's classic Ronaldo.
They don't go in that often, do they?
No. It's very low XG on that one, as you'd imagine. But he's definitely got it in him. I mean, it's 3 worldies to start off the Ollie era.
Well, the Herrera one, when I first saw it, I made a very high-pitched loud noise of excitement. It's one of those where you're slightly disappointed to watch the replay and see the massive deflection, because you hope it's just a straightforward worldie,
No, it's a little deflection. But anyway.
Under Mourinho, you'd have been like, it's a scrappy, lucky goal. It's the only way we're going to score. The agenda is strong.
The agenda is clear. And the Martial goal, that we replayed a lot. I mean, United just haven't over the last few years scored goals like that. But all of these players are, great with one-touch football. They're all great. Yeah. Bring it out of them.
Beginning of last season, there was quite a lot of that sort of stuff when Mkhitaryan had 5 assists in the first 4 games of the season or whatever it was. That little 4-0 FC period, we were scoring some very nice goals. But not really since then at all. Now, one of the things, sorry, to sound a slight note of caution, is of course the return of Romelu Lukaku is going to change some of this, and not necessarily for the better. So that's going to be fascinating, but we'll talk about that in the preview bit. Then Jesse Lingard stepped up. It was definitely a penalty, I thought. Cardiff.
Yes, yeah. Down the back of his leg, for sure. Yeah, Cardiff protested about that one a lot, didn't they?
They did.
But for me, a solid penalty.
And then Lingard's last goal, beautiful through ball from Pogba, lovely movement from Jesse Lingard, and a very fine, fully confident finish to round off just a day of abundance and joy. Just, honestly, to be looking at the United bench and thinking, I really love this manager, and there's real sort of hope and optimism and joy here. It's such a nice feeling. Because I sort of quite liked Louis van Gaal, and I was prepared to stick in there for a good while, but it just got so self-evidently atrocious, and he was getting more and more entrenched in his atrociousness. But Moyes and Mourinho, feel quite a strong personal antipathy for. So to have a manager who is just absolutely kind of beloved figure, it's amazing.
Yeah. And I mean, there's some fortune in terms of United scoring 3 worldies for the first 3 goals against Cardiff, for sure, and that's helped with a really big scoreline. But all the data is great. I mean, you talked about Pogba, He's got 2 assists in that game. He's created 3 other chances. United had 74% possession, and Pogba's put up huge numbers 2 games in a row. And huge numbers, not just, and this will really kill Mourinho, not just attacking numbers. He had 4 interceptions and 3 tackles and stuff like that as well. I mean,
he's a number 8. Like he's a midfielder. That he really is a midfielder. He's just not a number 6, and nor should he be.
No, he's not a number 6. I think he's more like an 8.5. I was going to say number 9, but that means something different, doesn't it? So he's somewhere in between an 8 and a 10, because he's definitely bends towards the creative side of things rather than the defensive side of things. But I think that's okay in the system that Ollie's set up. He doesn't need to go and defend. Now, if United are out of possession and that's going to help the team, he can do that, and he will do that, as we saw with France, where he was much more conservative in terms of how he was used during the World Cup. He can do it, and clearly, and this is going to trigger a lot of people, clearly he had down tools against for Mourinho, because they had such a poor relationship. Ollie, in the first question he got about Pogba, said, "Oh, he's happy now." I thought it was there was some subtext to that, but happy Paul Pogba is going to be a great Paul Pogba, and Mourinho. I just don't. It's mental how much Mourinho caused his own problems.
Yeah,
he didn't have to destroy this relationship with Paul Pogba. He could have worked out if he'd suddenly found more than one tool, and unfortunately all he's got is a hammer. If he'd found more than one tool as a manager and got Pogba on his side, what a bonus he'd have got there. He'd have got the world-class player that we know Pogba can be.
Yep.
And maybe he's going to show that over the next few months.
Here's hoping. And by the way, Gary Neville, you can do one and all, honestly.
Yeah, no, I think Neville's got it wrong here. Neville's got it wrong. He's bought into the narrative that Mourinho's people have tried to peddle, and a lot of United fans have got this as well. There's still now a lot of United fans saying we want Pogba out too.
Samuel Luckhurst, you can do one and all. I'm just going through my list. It's Gary Neville, Samuel Luckhurst. Anyone else? That's mostly them. It's mostly the 2 of them.
Yeah. I'd be happy to have Gary on the show if he wants to come on and explain his.
He's banned from Rankcast. Gary Neville, that you can do one and all. That's what earns you the ban, son. You're never coming on here.
Oh dear. It was interesting that post that came out. Pogba's people say that it was a scheduled post and really nothing to do with Mourinho. It comes out, half an hour after the announcement. Mourinho's being sacked on Instagram and Twitter, with him looking somewhat pensive and saying, "Caption
he was
this."
Doing the side eye, but it was part of the Pogmoji advertising campaign.
Yeah,
I like Luke Shaw put in when you accidentally post something on Instagram. His celebration of Pogba's goal. It was good. Should we move on to we've talked a lot about how in between the 2 games Ollie said all the right things. He was saying that actually there might be a little bit more structure to the team. It's in the attacking third, because he had not had a lot of time with the players and there was a lot of movement and interchange. I wanted to just on the one thing else I want to say about the Cardiff game is that Fred looked like peak Iniesta for the 15 minutes he came on. Now, it couldn't have been easier for him, but my goodness, he looked lively and bright in that, and it was clearly enough to earn him a start against Huddersfield. Not sure he fully took advantage of that, but
no, some of it, he does some good stuff. I think he's still to find his position as a United player. He's looked at times out of his depth, I think, at United, and Mourinho struggled to find a role for him because he's clearly a more forward-thinking player than Mourinho was comfortable with. It's a cliche because I've said it a bunch of times, but him and Herrera are competing for a place, I think, not him and Matic. We really do need competition for Matic because there isn't any in the squad. We'll see whether we get something out of Fred this second half. I have to say, I don't understand why United bought him. what was it we needed? Mourinho was looking for in that position when and you're going to spend 50 million, and what you really wanted was a central defender.
Yes, very strange.
Why buy a sort of all round midfielder?
Very strange. The Huddersfield game was a very different affair to Cardiff. First of all, Old Trafford sounded amazing. I was scrambling around trying to get a ticket because I had, of course, turned down the option of getting a ticket to the game on Boxing Day when I thought Mourinho was going to be the manager. I was just like, I don't want to go and drive for ages and be freezing cold and miserable on Boxing Day. And then it was like, anyone? No, okay, no, fair enough. No one's got a ticket. That's fine. I don't deserve one.
It wasn't full actually. I mean, it's interesting. There should have been tickets. I'm travelling. I meant to say this at the beginning of the show. The audio is not great. It's because I'm on a lav mic rather than a full setup this time. I'm in the States, so I couldn't have gone. But I'd have driven up to Old Trafford and just got a ticket outside the ground if needed. I mean, anyway.
Maybe I should have done that. But the atmosphere sounded amazing. I've been watching everyone's Instagram videos and stuff of the inside of the ground, and just the ole ole chant ringing out from the Stretford end in the way that when the chant really rings out from the Stretford end, and you get that kind of those harmonics of when it hits a certain volume and it doesn't sound muffled, it sounds so clear and crisp. It's one of the best sounds in the world, that is. And then the performance was interesting because actually Huddersfield were a more robust proposition than Cardiff, which was a little bit surprising. And they had a very defensive mindset, I think. And although they actually troubled United a few times early on, they had a very big chance, the one that sort of landed in front of the guy just outside the 6-yard box with basically the whole goal to aim at, and he skied over. But once we scored, and then especially in the second half after the substitutions, we looked electric again.
That's right. I mean, a lot of possession, but a lot of chances created for United, and a good Huddersfield side that put up a good test. I mean, they have struggled a bit this season. Mini Klopp is not quite doing as well as his mentor. They obviously don't have the quality of player of United, but they had both that chance you talked about and also the worldie that Dave's pulled off at 2-1.
Yeah, wasn't
it? No, 2-0 maybe. So
2-0 because they didn't score till 3-0.
That's right. Yeah. So. And that could have changed things as well. So, a good test for United. But United's numbers are great again. 65% possession, 16 shots. How many times do we have 16 shots? Not a lot. Winning tackles, winning the aerials. Fred's pretty dynamic. Not his best ever performance, but pretty dynamic.
There was one absolutely sumptuous pass out wide from Fred. So it was like,
I mean, he's got it. If United want to play one-touch football, attacking one-touch football, he's going to be good in that. If you don't ask him to be a second covering midfielder, he's not going to be so good.
Yeah.
And talking about covering midfielders, I've been very critical of Nemanja Matic because I don't think he's a very good screen. In a game like this, he's going to look good because he doesn't have to do an awful lot of defending.
Brilliant against Cardiff as well. Brilliant.
Yeah, and his range of passing is very good. He's just a strange player because he hasn't got the defensive side of his game anymore. But he was good. He obviously scored the opening goal, which juiced his numbers a little bit.
By the way, that opening goal, which I had forgotten until I watched Match of the Day this morning, the opening goal came from the Pogba free kick because the Pogba whipped in a free kick and it was like a direct free kick and it looked like really good, but it just clipped the wall and went out for a corner, and it was from that corner that we scored. So yet more influence from Pogba in a game in which he was not short of influence, it's fair to say. Can we talk about the second goal, please? I want to talk about that second goal.
Let's talk about the second goal.
I mean, it was kind of similar to the Cardiff goal, but this time it featured Juan Mata using his dribbly wing wizard skills on the edge of the box. Not on the edge of the box, but cutting in all the way to the byline, finding Herrera. Herrera finds Pogba, goal. And all the lead up to Mata getting the ball was really good as well. Pogba's movement to get himself in the right position, and his finish was obviously brilliant. Herrera's kind of intelligence and speed of thought to pick Pogba out, and Mata's kind of endeavour and strength and balance, just stunning, and such an enjoyable and United-y goal to watch.
It was, and then the third goal, you got to love the celebration there. I mean, people are going to be triggered by that for sure, but the Cantona-esque celebration after Pogba just stroked it home. He passed it into the bottom corner. That's what you've got. I mean, he's just such a phenomenal midfielder. He's Pogba playing like this is in the top 5 midfielders in the world. He's such a massive asset to United, and he can get better and he can do even more. And he just needs a manager that is going to get the best out of him. I mean, a lot of people, they don't like it. They think a player should be self-motivated, that just by putting on the shirt and playing for the shirt, that's enough, you know. But that's not the modern player, you know.
It's not. It's also, by the way,
not the old players
exactly.
either. I mean, you know, like let's look at, was Ronaldo that? Was Beckham that?
No, sir.
No, did they put in stunning performances, world-class performances for United? Yes.
Bobby Charlton down tools for Wilf McGuinness. Like, this is not new. It's really not new. Bobby Charlton down tools for Wilf McGuinness. Was he a kind of preening prima donna? No, sir, he was not. And the narrowness of vision that people like. There is no reasonable means to expect Pogba to have been performing to his best under the regime, given the way he was treated, given the way the team was set up. Like, at every level, man management, no chance. Would Fergie have handled Pogba like that? Not even a thought. Like, in a dressing room with Roy Keane in it, people would have been polite to Paul Pogba. Like, yeah, of course, people would have given out to him if he wasn't putting in a shift. But, like, Roy Keane loved Cristiano Ronaldo, for example. It's so reductive the way these things are approached. You can't manage Pogba like Mourinho managed Pogba and have a chance of getting a tune out of him, just like you couldn't with Eden Hazard or Ronaldo himself at Real Madrid, who completely fell out with Mourinho.
Yeah, right. Maybe it's a conversation for another day. I don't know where Mourinho goes after this. I mean, he's not going to get a job at any of the elite European clubs. All
I'm saying is, of all the funny tweets that people have sent me this week, I think my very single favourite one was during the 5-1 when someone tweeted, "Nah, you got to go around his house and sack him again."
I mean, I do wonder, what was Mourinho feeling during that? You know, is he just still so arrogant and sure of himself that he didn't care? Because it's got to hurt. It's got to. If you've got any sense of self, that would have hurt. That the failure of your regime being rubbed in by this, you know, rookie manager, taking his team to a stunning 5-1 win.
I mean, I'm sure Mourinho would be saying over and over again, like writing on the walls of his house, "It's only Cardiff, it's only Cardiff, it's only Cardiff." You know, Mourinho doesn't. I'm not sure Mourinho has genuine self-reflection in his locker, not real, true self-reflection, because everything about his public persona isn't that. And this is, you know, genuinely, I was kind of joking about not talking about him after this episode, but in a way, what I want to do is not necessarily make this show just that we use every opportunity to say we were right about Mourinho for the next 6 months. But I do think there is this show is the first one since he's gone, really, so he's going to come up a bit in this, but I think his personality is so fundamentally narcissistic at this point, and he didn't reflect on his failures when he left Chelsea last time. When he wore the Claudio Ranieri top, do you remember after Ranieri got sacked, his next press conference, he had CR on his training top in the press conference but that wasn't in solidarity with Claudio Ranieri. That's because he'd been sacked after winning the league and he thought it was a disgrace. But he deserved it because he completely wrecked that dressing room yet again. And instead of learning the lessons, he did the same, almost literally exactly the same thing again. I guess he'll either get the Real Madrid job if Perez gets his way. And if he does, there's no chance that's going to be successful.
No. I mean, he would only be successful if he shipped out the egos. I mean, Ronaldo's not there, obviously, that helps. He would have to ship out Ramos too.
Yeah, and Gareth Bale probably, and, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the Madrid job, apparently he still wants him. If I was Mourinho, I would go to a team with a high ceiling, but who've been underperforming for a good while, who can see themselves as underdogs.
Yeah. I mean, and his system suits an underdog, for sure. Not a team that needs to have 75% possession and go on the attack. Anyway, should we talk a little bit about the Huddersfield game? Anything more to say?
Just that Pogba goal, the second Pogba goal. Of course, it was amazing from Pogba, but one of the reasons that goal happened was because of movement off the ball, which has been another absolutely defining quality of the difference between the last two performances and what we've seen for the rest of this season. Just players moving off the ball, and that drags,
including central defenders.
Yeah, I mean, it drags defenders out. It drags opposition defenders out of shape. The only other things that De Gea saved was magnificent, and the goal was a stupid one to concede, but it's hard to care too much. And
very bad defensively. I mean, Pogba's lost out in the header. That's okay. That happens. But Lindelof hasn't covered. So I think it's his error. But he looked very good in that game, Lindelof. Has done for the last couple of games. He's looked good for the last few weeks, hasn't he?
I think he has.
We have a good player in there, and he's maturing, but that was definitely a mistake.
It's interesting that he's gone with Lindelof and Jones as his starting centre-back pairing to kind of start off with. And it does make sense because Phil Jones is good like 90% of the time, and then okay 5% of the time, and absolutely staggeringly atrocious 5% of the time. And then except... do all the maths to reduce that down to a total of 50% and then injured 50% of the time, because that's what it really is. But he's clearly got quality as a defender. It's just terrible things are going to happen if you play Phil Jones, aren't they? At some point.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, and I promise I will stop doing this after this episode. But I've just got to wonder, what the hell was Mourinho doing? This is a man who's supposed to be a defensive mastermind, and he just hasn't been able to manage to get the best out of players who have got qualities. So it's one of the most damning things in Mourinho. Can you point to the players that have improved under him?
Jesse,
that's it. And was that to do with Mourinho's coaching, or was this just a player that is a late bloomer?
Well, Lingard himself, it was one of the, I think, total of 4 players who mentioned Mourinho on social media after he got sacked, which is a staggeringly low number, by the way, under the circumstances. So Lingard said thanks for all the advice. Eric Bailly, because Eric Bailly is amazing, was like, whatever they might say, I'm still going to say thank you. And then if you swipe right on the picture and you see the second picture, it's the one of Mourinho squirting him with water. So that was good. I can't remember who the third one was. And then Angel Gomez said thank you for giving me my debut, because of course he did give him his debut, but that was 2 seasons ago now, and then I don't think he played at all last season, but he did come on because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is extremely aware of the PR side of the things, but I think also genuinely believes in giving these players a chance. So we had Pogba, Gomez, Lingard, Rashford as the front 4, aka all United Academy products.
Everything right from the PR perspective. Yeah. Everything right. I mean, it's interesting. In transfer windows coming up, I said that the rumour is United will only get loans. I don't know. Maybe Poch has already signalled that he's prepared to come and there'll be players lined up. But United had been looking at central defenders. Nikola Milenkovic, Fiorentina's sort of young central defender, a very high quality player, I'd say. And Kubai's better known at Napoli, would cost a huge amount of money, but probably one of the top 5 central defenders in the world. So, maybe they'll be bold enough to do that. In the meantime, Ollie's got to get the best out of what he's got, and he's got a lot of talent in Lindelof that's coming. I wonder whether he'll try and Bailly at all, because we know we've got a very good player there as well. And a risk, of course, but no more of a risk than Jones exploding or Smalling doing a brain fart. So.
Mm-hmm.
There's something he's got to work with. Ollie there, it's an unknown quantity. We've, in terms of his coaching and his qualities, we've seen what he's done from an attacking sense and what he's done from a defensive sense as the collective. Can he get the best from individuals defensively? Don't know, but it's definitely what United need to work on. I mean, there's a huge gap still to the top four. It's 8 points or something now. Some results have gone our way. We need more of those, and we need to beat all our closest rivals in the next few months to be in with a chance. And those will be really telling games.
Yeah, one of the reasons I believe I said this after Liverpool, one of the reasons I was so down on the idea of United breaking into the top four is that our own results would be so inconsistent. We wouldn't be able to take advantages of drop points. And that might still turn out to be the case. This might all be honeymoon period, but I like our chances of picking up points a lot more than I did. Because if this is going to be the way we play, never mind the United way, the aesthetic preference, never mind any of that. It's clearly the best option for the squad we've got. I mean, that just seems inarguable to me. They try and make this squad play tight, safe football. They can't. They haven't got it in them. But what they do have in them is incredibly brilliant, expressive attacking football. And that's going to sometimes go wrong, but I do think we are going to pick up a lot of points in the games that we're supposed to pick up points in between now and the end of the season. And maybe that's an overreaction to 2 games worth of data, but it's certainly looking a lot more promising than it did.
It is. The feel-good factor stretched all the way to Norway as well, with the Norwegian Prime Minister. First revealing that Ollie had taken the job before United revealed Ollie had taken the job.
No, it was after United had revealed it, to be fair, but United had a little CMS issues there. They published something that I don't think no one was supposed to hit publish on.
Yeah, I know.
We've all been there.
We have all been there. It was kind of funny. I guess it's a proud moment for Norway. But by the way, Mulder released a statement saying no, he's only on loan. He's definitely coming back. But it was also and United have paid like a £1.8 million loan fee. They've also agreed the permanent transfer fee, which is £8 million. So. If the stars aligned, Ollie could become United's permanent manager. I still think it's unlikely, but you never know, and they're setting it all up there.
Yeah, I mean, you do that, don't you? That's just sensible to do that, because why wouldn't you include that fee in case? I was going to say in case he wins the Champions League, but I don't really mean that much. I mean, it would be unbelievable, but in case it all goes right is more accurate. And as the weeks progress, we'll have this conversation, because I'm sure every other Twitter question we get between now and the end of the season is going to be, what would Ollie have to do to keep the job permanently, In fact, because of the travel times and stuff, we haven't got it together to ask for Twitter questions this week. But what I expect is that every other Twitter question between now and the end of the season is just going to be, what does Ollie have to do to keep the job? So we'll definitely, we mentioned that a little bit earlier, but we'll definitely have plenty of time to cover that. So what we also should cover is the fact that this is so fun. I'm so happy, Ed, because as I'm about to say these words, I'm genuinely excited and looking forward to I woke up this morning, it was it's like 3 days till United play again. Let's preview the 2 games coming up. So it is Bournemouth first, and then Newcastle and then we're going to record a podcast again immediately after the Newcastle game, which is on Wednesday. So Bournemouth is on Sunday. This Christmas period, it's sort of it hasn't seemed completely crazy. There's been a 4-day break between every game. It doesn't seem to have been as kind of squeezed as it normally is. Maybe that's just where the days of the week have fallen this year.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, Bournemouth, who just got tanked by Tottenham side.
Did you watch that game?
I only saw the highlights. But I mean, Spurs scored with every chance they got.
Yeah,
it seemed.
yeah, and Bournemouth got like a decent number of chances too, and didn't score at all. That game, I didn't. I would just watch the highlights, and having watched the highlights, I then went and dug into the data because it didn't make any sense, the scoreline. And yeah, basically, Spurs scored with every chance they created.
Weird stat on this one: Kyle Walker-Peters, apparently the first player of the Premier League era, the first double-barreled surnamed player of the Premier League era to get 3 assists in a game.
Great. That's a great stat. I mean, we are entering the age of double-barreled surname Premier League footballers, aren't we? Like, that is going to be the dominant paradigm of the next few years. But yeah, the Spurs, that scoreline definitely flattered to deceive, but they are in absolute banging form. And I have to say, if they somehow do manage to win the league, Pochettino's not going to leave just after winning the league.
Yeah, he will, because it's a bigger club he's moving to. I mean, Spurs paying off the stadium. It's clear that, I mean, it says something about what a good job he's doing. And I know we're going off script a little bit talking about Spurs, but he spent no money. For all the moaning from Mourinho and his disciples, the truthers, that United haven't backed him. Pochettino hasn't thrown a tantrum about this. He's just worked with the players he's got. He's got very good players, but he's improved all of them. And I think, it's just very telling about what a good coach he is. And he's got this Spurs side who are working on a budget that is fractions of City's, playing great football. Yeah, and they're outscoring us, which is something. Just to drop back a little bit into the Ollie comparison narrative. Let's compare him to Guardiola. 2 defeats for City during the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer era, 100% win rate for Ollie. Ollie turns up at United, Guardiola goes to no coincidence. Anyway.
Yeah. Yes. So Bournemouth are, when we last played them, they were in a nice little run of form. They are not in a nice little run of form this time. They've won 1 in the last 6 or something like that, I think. And that was a pretty skanky victory. They've not been creating chances, and they haven't been conceding tons of chances, I have to say, but they have been obviously conceding a fair old number of goals. This is completely reasonable for them. They're about where they're supposed to be. Well, they're probably above where they're supposed to be in the league in terms of their operating budget and all that sort of thing. It's going to be interesting to see how they approach this game. They gave United big trouble in the first half of the game at Bournemouth a few weeks ago. And that was one of those comeback games where the players decided to completely ignore Mourinho's instructions and actually try and attack, and then looked really good doing it for the second half. But anyway, this time it's going to be interesting to see how they approach it. I mean, they definitely have threats. That they got a lot more players I've heard of than either Cardiff or Huddersfield. Let's just say that.
Yeah, and they've got some good players. I mean, David Brooks is a player who could, I think, go on to bigger things. Nathan Ake has grown as a central defender. Callum Wilson has been talked about, moving to Chelsea. Really big transfer. Might happen. Very, very good player. Junior Stanislas is a good attacking midfielder. They've got some talent there. And Eddie Howe's done a very good job on a tiny time. I'm guessing they're probably the smallest budget in the Premier League. And
do you think they're smaller budget than Cardiff? I doubt it.
No, maybe not. Yeah, but one of the smallest.
Yeah.
So they, he's working with what he's got, and he's trying to create a good team. Now, they have just been annihilated by Spurs. So we'll be playing them not in great form. I mean, Newcastle have just been annihilated by Liverpool. So the stars have definitely aligned for Ollie for United to go out and attack, and United should attack.
A mention of Ryan Fraser as well, who's got 8 assists already this season. Well, that is a lot of assists at this stage of the season.
Do you know who's got more assists than that?
No.
Paul Pogba.
Has he?
Yeah, hasn't he?
In the league this season?
Well, he's got a lot for United this season.
I believe he's been directly involved in more goals than any other midfielder in Europe now this season, which is hilarious and amazing. No, he has 5 assists in the league this season, Paul Pogba, but also 5 goals.
All right. I stand corrected. Yeah. He's got a lot, though.
Yeah, he has. Marcus Rashford also has 5 assists in the league this season, which is nice. So let's talk a bit about United and how we're going to approach this game. I mean, the chances are Sanchez, who has been literally putting videos of himself training to Eye of the Tiger montages on Instagram since Mourinho left. Someone said he's found his Twitter password again. And someone else on the Touchline Fracas podcast, somebody said he heard Mourinho got sacked and hopped on a plane back from Chile immediately. So it'll be interesting to see, but probably too soon for him. But Lukaku, of course, missed 2 games for compassionate leave reasons. So there's no fitness issue there, you'd imagine. I wonder whether he's going to come back in the side, and I definitely wonder how that's actually going to affect United.
I mean, I just wouldn't play him up front. I don't. He's not in great form. Marcus Rashford's looking like a good player in this sort of fluid front three that Ollie wants to play. I don't think he's earned a place in the side, Lukaku, and it would change the dynamic a lot. I wonder, and we've kind of floated this one before, whether it wouldn't be better playing Lukaku if you're going to play him in one of the wide positions.
Yeah, I mean, you could play him wide right, couldn't you? And Solskjaer knows a little bit about attackers being played wide right when they probably shouldn't be, doesn't he? So maybe he'll do that, but I'd wonder whether he might actually just play Rashford left, let Martial have one more game to recover and play Lukaku up front. I mean, you say he's not in good form, and he's certainly not performance-wise. He did score 2 goals in a few games, didn't he? But I don't know. And also, we would have said about a lot of players that they weren't in good form. I mean, Paul Pogba wasn't in good form, and he certainly is now.
I mean, Martial should be back. I mean, he had a bit of food poisoning, didn't he? So Ollie blamed it on his chef. And he's United's top scorer.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that also Solskjaer said, it's the Christmas period, there'll be a lot of rotation, everyone's going to get a chance, it's a clean slate for everyone. That's surely got to apply to Romelu Lukaku, the £75 million centre forward. You're not going to leave him out of the kind of clean slate conversation, are you? He's going to surely give him a try up there anyway. Yeah.
Okay, and we'll see. We'll see. But this is set up for United to attack.
Oh yeah,
100%. This is exactly Bournemouth's weakness. Bournemouth are not going to go and defend; they're going to try and attack too. And God, you said it before. I'm really looking forward to this. Really looking forward to it. It's going to be awesome.
So exciting. 4:30 Sunday, that one. And then we travel, I say we, I'm not going anywhere. Man United travel up to Newcastle on Wednesday the 2nd for a cold Geordie evening game on the Wednesday. That's going to be a different sort of challenge because they are going to drive up there and find a thoroughly parked bus. But probably quite a badly parked bus at a bit of an angle, like that someone's like just parked it and then jumped out and run off, basically, because Newcastle are an uber shambles at the moment.
Oh, they're a total shambles. I mean, they got annihilated by Liverpool, and it was a proper beating. It could have been even worse. Yeah, I mean, Benitez is holding in there, isn't he? I'm not sure he's done a great job, but
I think I don't see how he could have done a better job.
No, I know. But yes, he's kept them in the division, which is pretty much all he can do with this squad, which is not good. I mean, there are very few players that you'd pull out of the Newcastle team and say, yeah, they could play at a higher level than they are playing. Very few.
They're 5 points clear of the relegation zone as well, which that's a lot. Given that they're not a very good team, it's not going to take a lot of points to stay up in this division this season, is it? Between Burnley collapsing, Cardiff, Fulham, Huddersfield, and Newcastle, like those are some low points total seasons coming.
Well, yeah, halfway stage of the season, Huddersfield 10, Fulham 11, Burnley 12, Cardiff 15, Southampton 15. Wow.
Yeah, it's really not very inspiring. I think...
Imagine you stay up with 30 points.
Yeah, I think it's not impossible. Certainly 31 or 32 this season, I reckon. But I reckon Southampton will pull clear out of that lot as well, because they've made what seems like a very smart managerial appointment. Or when I say that, what I mean is a German managerial appointment, and someone I've heard of and hipster football fans say is good. So I'm assuming that means it's a smart one.
Isn't the dude Austrian?
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, listen.
Yeah. Hey, don't get all Third Reich on us.
No,
but,
I won't. Anyway, Newcastle are not very good. They lost 4-0 to Liverpool, but it is unusual that they get tonked at their home ground. He says, noticing that they lost 3-0 to West Ham at the beginning of December at St James's, but it's kind of a little bit unusual that they concede big numbers of goals at home. In fact, it's generally speaking, it's been quite unusual that they've conceded big numbers at all this season. In the league, I believe it's only us, West Ham and Liverpool that have put 3 or more goals past them. Everyone else, it's been 1 or 2, but often, So anyway, we know they're going to be certainly set up to spoil the party.
They've conceded fewer goals than we have this season.
Right, there you go. Isn't that something?
Of course, they're going to set up the spoiler party. This will be a good test of whether Ollie's United can break down some of those walls. I mean, we will have a better go at it than under the previous regime.
Yeah,
the manager whose name we will no longer speak after this podcast is finished. So we're better set up to take on that kind of opposition. And as I said before, times against Cardiff and Huddersfield where there were 5 players ahead of the ball.
So nice.
Exactly what we need to break Newcastle down. I'm now feeling confident.
And like all this time, over and over again, look, it's not about results. It's not the disconnect with United, the feeling of kind of like almost dread about watching them. It's not about the fact that they might not win. It's about what you're going to see. And honestly, I am not bothered about what results Ole Gunnar Solskjaer gets as United manager. Like, of course, it's going to be brilliant if we win, but I'm going to want to watch every single game without fail. If I was in a position to do so, I'd be going to Old Trafford at every opportunity I possibly had. The feel-good factor is immense, and I think if we lose 2 or 3 in a row, that isn't going away. The only way it goes away is if there's loads of infighting again, and if the players fall out with him and all that. But I honestly don't think it's going to happen, because I don't think it's that hard to keep this squad of players happy. I think you just have to tell them they're good and play to their strengths.
And I think that's what he's going to do. And I haven't seen his press conference ahead of that game. Maybe it's coming up later today or tomorrow. But I'm sure he's going to reiterate all the positives, and he's going to talk about United more than he's going to talk about Newcastle.
Yeah, well,
that's
Bournemouth.
refreshing too. In Bournemouth. Yeah, it's really refreshing. I just got so triggered watching Mourinho's press conferences, and just his negativity. And the narcissism, and it's just all gone. Ollie is going to talk about the collective, and he's going to talk about what United need to do and the positives.
Yeah, absolutely. So that'll do, won't it? We'll predict the scores and then go home happy. Actually, what we decided to do is normally we every week the show is brought to you by the people that choose to back us at patreon.com/rankcast, and we do bonus content every week for people that back at $5 plus VAT per month. We're not saying it's worth that, the bonus content. It's just a kind of reward for people that choose to back us at that level or higher. But this week, in the spirit of the season and the incredible feel-good factor around United, we thought we would do the bonus content so it would be available to everyone for 1 week, so you can get a kind of taste of what it's like. I know we always put a little taste in at the end of each episode, but we'll do the whole bonus content this time. So we'll come back in a second after we've predicted it, and we're gonna run through Solskjaer's playing career with United as this week's bonus content. But before we do that, let's talk predictions. What are your predictions, Ed?
Big wins, big wins. Bournemouth at home. Bournemouth concede chances. United now create them. So I'm gonna say 4-0.
Wow, 4-0 FC. I am going to go with a more moderate 3-1 because we also concede chances.
Very true. And Bournemouth do have good players, as we noted earlier.
Yeah, and then Newcastle, I think we are going to slightly but struggle our way to a 2-0 win. If it was at home, I'd feel differently. But they really, apart from that West Ham game, which was a weird aberration, they just don't give up a lot of goals at St James's.
Yeah, I think Paul Pogba inspired 3-1 win.
Yeah, lovely. All right, well, if that works, that's going to be real good. So normally I say goodbye at this point, but I'm not going to this week. We're going to just keep this train rolling and hit you up with some bonus content.
Nice. So what are we talking about this week, Paul?
So, given what's happened, we thought that it would be timely and sensible to cover Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's Manchester United career as a player and a coach for our bonus content this season, especially focusing on his time as a player. When do you remember first hearing about him, Ed?
Well, when he signed.
Yeah, I think me too, I suspect.
I definitely wasn't hipster enough in the mid-90s to be watching Norwegian football.
And there was no internet in those days. Well, there was internet those days, but we didn't really know how to use it or have access to it or anything.
Yeah, I did. Did I not? I had a computer around 90. Yeah, I definitely had a computer around. Yeah, I did. Yeah. Yeah, I was, in the chat rooms and stuff of and IRC and other filth. So yeah, no, I hadn't heard of him before he joined, but this rando from Norway who looked about 12 years old turned up at United, and I think it's been really interesting. We've heard some of the stories this week. Who was talking about it? Maybe it was it Graham Lasso on the NBC coverage of the Huddersfield game was talking about he'd talked to a few of the ex-United players from that time, and just within the first couple of training sessions, they were absolutely stunned at this guy's finishing.
Yeah,
and he was the talk of the squad, and of course, we saw that within 2 games of him actually joining United, and he started scoring goals.
So I once went on holiday to a cottage in Wales, and they had in their book collection Alex Ferguson's 1995-96 diary. I think it was 95-96, wasn't it? His first season. Or was it? No, 96-97. And he was talking about Solskjaer and what a problem Solskjaer had given him. Because he didn't sign him to be ready for the first team straight away.
That's right. A
lot of strikers in the squad already at that point. But he just hit the ground running. And I think he was our top scorer in that very season, if I'm not much mistaken, which was certainly not expected at the time. You buy this Norwegian player with loads of promise who scored 30 goals in 38 games in Norway, which, clearly where the goal is, don't you, at that point. But to kind of to nail it immediately and score 19 goals in all competitions in your first season at United, nobody was expecting that.
No, not at all. But it's sort of mark of quality of the player. It's an interesting career at United because he spent a lot of seasons at United, and towards the end, he was obviously injured a lot. And didn't make many appearances in his sort of final few seasons for the club, and it's a mixed career because he's got all these trophies, but he always had to struggle to be first choice, didn't he? And sort of known as a sub, but made a lot of starting appearances for United as well. But he was very rarely in a position where it was obvious he was starting.
Yeah.
But made a lot of the qualities he had. And perhaps as a player, the all-round game wasn't quite there, although it matured over the years, and he spent some time playing in wider positions, didn't he? In the era when those were wide positions, not wide forwards. and especially under Ferguson. But he's made a lot of the talent he got, and it showed very early. What was its first goal? Was it against Blackburn or something like that? And just a couple of games into his career at United, I remember him as a player who just made all those instinctive finishes, and a humble player as well. And one, remember, who could have moved from United to join Tottenham, was given the opportunity and then decided against it. Said he'd rather be a sub at United and fight for a place than be guaranteed. And he was given the option, and United had basically agreed a fee. So, there's those things that we see in him as a manager now, that we saw in him as a player as well.
Just, you mean the kind of absolute love of Man United?
Love of Man United, the fact that he's humble, but he had the mindset to go, I'm going to fight for this. Yeah.
So he scored against Blackburn, and then a few games later opened the scoring against Nottingham Forest. More of them later. And then he scored a brace against Spurs in a home game that we won 2-0 in September 96. And I think it's around that time that Fergie's starting to think, oi, oi. And actually, 96-97 is the second most, so his first season at United, when he really was bought to kind of find his feet and play in the reserves for a bit. That's the second most starts he ever made in the league for United. The only time he made more was 2002-2003, when, as you said, by this point his all-round game has changed a lot, and he was used as the kind of Scott McTominay to David Beckham's Paul Pogba by Alex Ferguson to make a point. Bex got injured, Solskjaer filled in on the right, and then Bex couldn't get his way back into the side because Fergie was fed up with him by that point, basically. And Solskjaer probably was not as good as David Beckham, wide right, but nonetheless, actually, unlike Scott McTominay, was an extremely able deputy. He scored 9 goals that season in the league, and 15 in all comps.
What are your major memories of United? Because mine are burned into like the big moments, the goal against Liverpool, the Champions League, obviously the 4 that he scored against. I remember watching that game, actually, Nottingham Forest, when he came on and scored 4 in like last 15 minutes, or something like that. Those are the moments. The goal against Liverpool in the was in the cup or the league turn thing. It was the cup, wasn't it? Or maybe it was both,
it was the cup. It was
the cup,
4th round of the FA Cup. So all right, let's talk about these one at a time, Ed. Let's not blast them all out in one go. So the Nottingham Forest game was a game. See, we talk about this like everyone listening remembers this, but it's a really long time ago now. Pretty sure it was in the 98-99 season, if I remember correctly.
And we're old, and many of our listeners are not.
Exactly. Yeah. So Man United were winning 4-1, I'm pretty sure, against Nottingham Forest in the league. At Nottingham Forest, Ron Atkinson's Nottingham Forest, which makes it even more satisfying somehow. And Ollie Solskjaer came on as a substitute. Yeah, it was 6th of February 1999. York had scored a brace. Cole had scored a brace. This is peak York, Cole, Sheringham, Solskjaer era, obviously. And then Ollie comes on and scores his first goal in the 80th minute. And by the 90th minute, he scored 4. And Ron Atkinson afterwards is like, well, what am I supposed to do? If they've got a player on the bench that could do that. And he has this reputation as a super sub, and it's earned for 2 reasons. One is the thing you were talking about earlier, which is the kind of move to Spurs that never happened, and his willingness to be at United and be a sub. I mean, invaluable to Ferguson to have a player like that who was prepared. I mean, one of the reasons we could be as successful as we were in that era is because Ollie Solskjaer was prepared to play second fiddle, and he played it so beautifully. Because he would sit on the bench, and this is also probably one of the reasons why he's perhaps on a better trajectory than some of Ferguson's other players as a coach. He would sit on the bench and watch every second of the match. He'd be looking for weaknesses, looking for things to exploit. And he came on and scored a lot. It's not a myth. He really was a super sub. But those four goals were quite remarkable.
Yeah, 366 games for United, 150 of them off the bench. So, he did, it's almost, it's just a bit over a third of his performances for United as a sub, and a lot of goals. You know, it was absolutely stunning. It was one of those games you go, wow. You know, glad I was watching that one.
Yeah.
And I'll remember that for years to come. And you know, what the happened there?
So the Liverpool game. We went 1-0 down in the fourth round of the FA Cup. And remember, like the FA Cup, first of all, there's no denying it. The FA Cup was just straight up more important then than it is now. Even by 99, it was still an important trophy. And of course, the story of 99 is the story of its completeness. And the FA Cup was a big part of that. We battered Middlesbrough 3-1 in the third round. And then Liverpool were drawn against Liverpool at Old Trafford. And they went 1-0 up really early. If I remember rightly, this is Michael Owen goal. If I remember, Owen or Fowler, one or the other. We kind of hammered them and battered at the door. And finally, Dwight Yorke scored in the 88th minute and then in the 90th minute.
Schmeichel, Neville, Irwin, Keane, Bergstam, Beckham, Butt, Cole, York and Giggs. There's some talent in that team.
Yeah, and it's clearly not the first. It's clearly not a full strength team either, is it?
No, I know. This was a season I was, it's like during the 90s. I went to an awful lot of football, but I was living somewhere away from Manchester this season, so I didn't get to as many games, and I wasn't at this game and watched it in a bar full of United fans, which went completely bonkers. And I think I went completely bonkers as well. This is again one of those games that is burned in the memory for an awful long time.
And in the Class of '92 documentary, I'm pretty sure it is, but also just everywhere this season is talked about. This is picked out as a turning point in the whole season. This is where the kind of myth-making begins, that United are a team that are unstoppable, that we are, we can be 1-0 down with 88 minutes gone in a knockout game, but you can't rest because we've got Ollie Solskjaer on the pitch and he's been watching you all. That's
right. I mean, United didn't lose a game in this season after the 19th of December in any competition, but were very, very close in this game to losing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't realise how close these were together. The Liverpool game is on the 24th of January. The Forest game is on the 6th of February.
Yeah.
So just a couple of weeks later when he scores 4 in 5 minutes or something.
Honestly, like you said, it's just one of those things. You just never forget it. It's so seared into the memory. So what Solskjaer did, and then of course, comes the moment at which he goes from being a kind of like very, very well liked kind of cult hero at United to being an actual club legend for the rest of time that will never be forgotten. And he said this very sweet thing in the press conference, which he says, I hope the results are good enough that they're still singing my name at the end, when I leave in May. Oh. And it's like, we are never, ever, ever going to stop singing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's name.
No. And it's, for the goal against Munich. I mean, because he started the FA Cup final a few days earlier, didn't score, but perhaps a surprise that he started. But
no, it wasn't a surprise at all because that game, like a lot of the players that weren't going to be starting in the Champions League final, you knew they were going to be starting in the FA Cup final. So it was it's like the incredible luxury that Ferguson had. Because Sheringham wasn't happy to be playing second fiddle. Sheringham did not stick around much longer to play second fiddle, in fact. But Ollie was okay with it. And so, Ferguson rewarded him with that start in the FA Cup final.
Uh-huh. And the Champions League final, it always gets a little bit dusty in the room when this comes up. A little tear in the eye. Oh, I have to watch that last 3 minutes every now and again. Because, boy... half our listeners probably weren't born when this game was on. You don't know football.
This was
very, very special.
it's just, I have this theory that I trot out every now and again that the Manchester United's 1999 season is the closest thing that you would ever need to proof that the universe does not run along purely materialistic and easily explainable grounds, because there's some magic about this season, and those 2 goals, Giggs doesn't get the clean contact, Sheringham sweeps it in, we're back in it. David Beckham's standing there with has got the corner, and he knows he's going to put a good delivery in. Like, he just knows it. He's standing there completely certain that the ball's going to go somewhere in the mix. And when it comes across to Solskjaer and he's standing right in front of the goal, and he's almost shocked that the ball's coming to him, but he's so ready, and his body shape is like, he just scraps it into the back of the net, and Solskjaer has won it. A perfect moment of commentary in a perfect world where suddenly anything is possible and Manchester United have reached a promised land, thanks to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's positional awareness.
This week, the UEFA Twitter account posted out, Solskjaer's taken over at United, and here's a reminder of why he's so remembered, with highlights of that goal. The Bayern Munich Twitter account, always pretty good for banter, said, sorry, but we're having to block you now. We're still a bit emotional about that one. Not as good as the Borussia Dortmund account for the old bands, I'd say, but not bad. But yeah, I mean, I guess more of our listeners will remember the 2008 Champions League final. Great for different reasons, but just I don't think I'll ever be seared into the memory and the emotions quite the way this one. I still get the goosebumps watching that game. And a little croak in the throat, as you can hear. Yeah. And the room gets a little dusty. Just pure magic, and that's why he'll always. One of the reasons he'll be always loved and revered at United. It doesn't matter what the results are for the next few months. He's only going to Solskjaer. He's one of ours. So.
One of the folkloric moments, of course, in Solskjaer's career is the tackle against Rob Lee. It's just amazing. It's one of the few times where a standing ovation for a red card was absolutely deserved. It started a bit of a bad trend, I think, of people getting stupid red cards and getting a standing ovation. But that was an excellent red card to get. So everyone's seen this, I'm sure, but Rob Lee is breaking clean through on goal in a must-win game for United, and Solskjaer charges half the length of the pitch and just takes him out, and kind of basically turns and walks off immediately. Fergie was not happy about that at all, though, apparently. Gave Solskjaer a bit of a talking to, said that's not how we do things around these parts.
Yeah, but it was the right thing to do. I know. It's, nowadays I don't think a manager would ever criticise a player for that. It's a more cynical time, but Fergie had some principles, and but it's just amazing. It's brilliant. It's on YouTube. Go watch it. You can see him lengthen his stride. He's absolutely busting a gut to get back. And then realises he's not going to get back to the ball and just takes Rob Lee out just in the most beautifully cynical manner. And you're right, he turns around and walks off, and then he sort of turns back, doesn't he, just to double check that he's getting the red.
Am I actually getting sent off? So then 01-02, he starts 23 games in the league. Is that after Van Nistelrooy's arrived? Yeah, it is, isn't it? So Van Nistelrooy arrives, and Van Nistelrooy liked playing with Solskjaer, which he didn't like playing with that many other strikers, but he could play with Solskjaer because Solskjaer would never get in his way, obviously, because his movement was excellent. And he banged 17 in the league that season, his second highest goal tally ever, which, given that's 23 starts, 7 sub-appearances, but 23 starts, 17 goals, not bad at all, is it?
It's a pretty good ratio, isn't it? Yeah. He's. We talk about finishers. Ollie's a magnificent finisher. I don't know what the right words are for Van Nistelrooy.
Well, it's so different, isn't it? Because Van Nistelrooy had more physical attributes to be working with than Solskjaer. Solskjaer's finishing is like the most cerebral finishing I've ever seen. Like, his spot picking is just exquisite, isn't it? I'd love to see the breakdown between Solskjaer's XG and his goals scored, because I bet his goals scored is a good bit higher.
I think that's right. I don't know whether the data's available retroactively. I guess it's not. Someone had to watch an awful lot of videos to do it. But yes, I'm sure his ratio is very interesting. Solskjaer. I mean, cerebral, yes, because he made the right choices all the time. But also, there's a lot of instinct there. You can see in that 99 goal.
Yeah,
he puts that in the top corner, but he's not thinking about that. That's on instinct and reaction times. And there weren't too many strikers who'd put that away. I mean, would Van Nistelrooy have put that away? Probably, but he might have got a cleaner contact and stuck it right at the keeper.
It is amazing to think that that's a real thing that happened in our lifetimes, that we got to see United win the Champions League final, in which they got absolutely battered by winning it with the last kick of the game, thanks to probably the most likeable player in the club's history. Every other United great has got. I mean, not that Solskjaer doesn't have an edge to him. And there's that story that Rio Ferdinand tells of being at training in his one of his first training sessions, and someone absolutely fizzes a ball into him, and he fails to control it, and Ollie Solskjaer just goes, "How much?" And he's like, "Oh, it'd be all right if it's Roy Keane, but Ollie Solskjaer is bantering me off here."
Nice, yeah.
So then he basically replaced David Beckham on the right, and he did a really fine job of it. From my memory, he was very effective from that position. But then, unfortunately, and in fact, Beckham was not replaced when he was sold. So the plan was Solskjaer at wide right. And unfortunately then comes the sort of incredibly emotional coda to Solskjaer's United career, because that's when he does his knee against Panathinaikos. And he's out of action. I've got the dates here from September till February.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's just kind of he never really comes.
He never really recovers, yeah.
No.
I mean, his final season at United in 06-07, he scored 11 goals, which, because I remember him hardly playing at all, which basically for 3 years he hardly played at all.
Yeah.
Because of that knee. There's one story, of course, that went around that he'd actually caused that injury in his knee slide in the 99 season. He denies that and says that isn't true. But
well, I mean, the dates he played for 4. It was 4 years later. So
yeah. No, I know. But it's a good myth, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Did he score? Yeah. So he scored against Charlton, and that's the one where he did the kind of I'm not worthy bow to the United fans. And now that is a dusty room moment. And his relationship with the United fans really truly was special. And it wasn't just because of 99, because Teddy Sheringham, he's well liked by United fans, but there's no banner in the Stretford End for Teddy Sheringham, and nor would there ever be. And yet he scored a goal of equal importance in that game. But Solskjaer's entire United career, as we've seen so clearly by what's happened in the last couple of weeks, or week, can't believe it's only a week, was defined by how much he loved being a United player.
Right.
And there's something incredibly special about that. And it was proven time and time and time again, because he could have had, in some ways, well, he certainly could have had a very different career. Imagine if after 1999, he could easily have, he'd won everything by that point. He could easily have said, for the rest of my career, I'd like to play every game, basically. And there's not too many levels of football where he wouldn't have been a starting striker every single week.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, if he'd gone to Spurs at that time, and Spurs were very much Spurs then, not the Spurs of now, yeah, he would have, of course he'd been playing every week, and he'd probably scored 30 goals a season, But yeah, he didn't. And the love for him was reflected in 70,000 fans turning up at his testimonial.
Yeah.
Against Espanyol. Random selection,
right,
I'd say.
Shame, surprised it wasn't Mulder.
Yeah, it should have been. Or Bayern Munich.
Ouch. That'd have been painful for them, I bet. he was then given the job as a coach in Ferguson's first team staff. At that point, that was his first job at United.
Yeah. One other story I remember, actually, just to round off the 99 bands. Danny Baker, the Radio 1, what do you call him? DJ?
Yeah.
Called DJs, personality, tells the story of him watching the 99 final and pulling his pants down in the face of Lothar Matthäus. He's not a United fan, he's a Londoner through and through, but clearly, found that a wonderful moment. I remember the German players just absolutely destroyed on the pitch. After that, their worlds must have just fallen in. That is only just to give colour to the emotion in that moment. That was the exact opposite of that, Yeah. As good as it gets in watching football for everyone who's there or watching on TV and for the players. And, that's that for anyone who wasn't around at that time and doesn't remember that game or was very young. And that's why this guy will be seared into everything that United is and why he'll get such massive support and why he gets the club, and Ed Woodward is right in this. He gets the club.
And then he was a reserve team coach for a long time. He did, and he did a job which was
with a very good record. Yeah,
yeah, very, very widely praised. That I think he'd left by the time they won the Youth Cup.
Yeah,
or maybe he didn't manage that side because I get all confused about which one's which. Anyway, He then got the gig at Mulder and won the league in their first season, and they're not a team that's supposed to win the Norwegian league. And Cardiff happened, whatever, I remember at the time, everyone said this is a no-lose situation for Solskjaer because the club's such a state that it won't negatively affect his reputation if he does badly. And I remember saying, I don't think that's true because I think reputations get damaged whatever state the club's in. And actually the amount of people that have brought up what a terrible job he did at Cardiff in the last week is real evidence that no, it did hurt his reputation, actually. In fact, it's the only thing a lot of people think about when they think about his coaching career, even though it's a real blip in an otherwise very successful coaching career at youth and senior level,
Yeah, they won the 2009-2010 Premier League Reserve North League by some distance, and then the playoff against the Southern winners, Aston Villa, was a 3-3 game, and United won penalties with Federico Macheda. Well, Marin BM Diouf scored and twice in that game, and Macheda scored as well, and then Macheda, Possebon and Ben Foster scored the penalties to give United the victory and Ollie his first trophy as a manager.
Wow. Mama Biram Diouf is perhaps a slight salutary lesson that we should be a little bit cautious about giving Solskjaer tons of money to spend in January, given that apparently, according to Fergie's second autobiography, which I guess means this is probably not true, Ollie was the person that had suggested to Fergie that he should take a look at Mama Biram Diouf.
Yeah. He's got 6 goals for United in that reserve season.
There you go. Anyway,
as did another inevitable purchase for United in the January window, Magnus Wolf Eikram.
How has he not already been linked? How has he not been linked?
Currently at Mulder. Surely he's got to come.
Love that kid, by the way. Look, and I'm kind of glad. Ideally, of course, he would have lived up to the dream of his potential and been a world beater. But the next best thing is him just hanging out with Ole Solskjaer for the rest of his life, which I think we'd all like to do. Where does he rate in your favourite United players ever? Then, Ed, is he up there?
Solskjaer, yeah, he's up there for different reasons. For obviously Eric for just being Eric, and Roy Keane for being Roy Keane. And Brian Robson, and of the players from the 90s, but he rates highly, not because he was as good as those players, because he wasn't, but for the personality he was, and because he's a United fan on the pitch.
Yeah.
And he scored that goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And he scored that goal, and it was like the fact that he scored that goal is such a fitting, almost like reward for everything he sacrificed to beat United. Because what a terrible sacrifice it is to be a Man United footballer. But he did choose to play fewer games in his career than he otherwise would have done in order to play for United. And the fact that he got to score a last-minute winner in the Champions League final is pretty excellent, kind of like karmic justice for the fact that he was prepared to be a sub so long. So, yeah, God bless Ole Solskjaer and all who sails in him, which is now the whole of United, because he's somehow now our manager, which is amazing. Oh, it's so good.
I'm going to enjoy the ride
for
the next few months, and I wasn't enjoying watching United, as listeners will probably...
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it just nice to feel excited about United again and not hate everything about the club? I mean, I hate the owners, and I don't have very much respect for the CEO, and I despise an awful lot of what United has become as a club. It's a brand that just happens to have a football team attached to it, and I could compartmentalize all of that for 90 minutes on a Saturday or a Wednesday or a Thursday or whenever it was. But with the kind of football that our previous manager, the Portuguese manager, was playing, I started to despise that as well.
Yeah.
So I started to not look forward to I had to watch them all, obviously, but I wasn't looking forward to the games. Now I am.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the next game.
Absolutely. And Solskjaer played at a time where we definitely couldn't wait for the next game. So it's super cool for him to be managing at that time. So thank you for listening, everyone. I hope that those of you that don't normally get the bonus content enjoyed it. We'll be back with a normal show after the Newcastle game and normal bonus content.
Yes, certainly will. In the meantime, drop us a review on iTunes. That will help other people find this podcast, and they'll now find a happy, jolly, looking forward to the next game podcast rather than an hour or an hour and a half of doom and gloom that we were getting. Hey, and we haven't even talked about politics once in this podcast because the two things that were turning people off: the doom and gloom. And we joke about this, of course, but the doom and gloom and our snowflake-dom of political commentary, and we haven't done either of those things this podcast.
Perfect. Long may it continue. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, take good care of yourselves and enjoy Man United.
Woohoo! Come on, you Reds.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.